Hey everyone, this is Victoria English, top coach with Project 90. Thanks for being here with me today. I'm discussing a topic today that is very important. It's so important that I wish it were being shouted about from the rooftops as a public health crisis, a crisis amongst women and families. That book, Dr. Seuss, Horton Hears a Who, sometimes I feel that way. A person is a person, no matter how small. If you remember the storybook, that little who is this tiny little thing shouting, and sometimes it feels like no one hears it, but someone does. And I am very lucky that I get to use this microphone and the platform of Alcohol Free Lifestyle Podcast, along with some other platforms, to share this message. The message is about alcohol and women. So we're going to talk about that. And I hope you'll stick around to listen, to learn about yourself if you are a woman questioning your relationship with alcohol, or if you care about a woman whom you worry is struggling. There's relief, and it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And I'm going to share some of those ideas with you. Before we get started, I love to give away free stuff. And James spent so much time and energy putting together something so special for you, our listeners. It is the Alcohol Freedom Formula. It's a free download. You can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. You can get it, download it, and take a read. It's pretty amazing stuff. You can also book a call with me, Coach V, as they call me in the program. Go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. You book a call with me. I phone you up and we have a nice chat. Let's see if Project 90 is the right fit for you. And if you're the right fit for us. You may not be. That's okay. Like I say on this podcast, it's 2021. There are multiple paths to becoming alcohol free. If it's not us, it might be someone else. We curate a particular type of community. I would love to find out if you're the fit. So please book that call. Let's have a chat. All right, let's get started. When I was younger, I'm 51 now. When I was in my developmental years with drinking, say high school, a little bit of drinking in high school, college. I've said before, I went to a big football school, was in a sorority. Alcohol was a lot of fun. Never had any consequences besides some hangovers, questionable dance moves. And then, it was a good time. I graduated. I went on to get married. I had 3 children within 4 years. Alcohol was really not a part of my life. It wasn't until my mom passed away when I was 29 years old. And I started experiencing what I know now were panic attacks. I was a runner. I couldn't run. I couldn't catch my breath. All I knew is I felt terrible. I felt like there was a vice around my chest. And wine relieved that stress. All of a sudden, I could catch my breath at the end of the day. That's how innocently my issue with alcohol began. It was so harmless. And you know what else? Back then, this was like 2001, 2002. I had no idea what a woman with an alcohol use problem could look like, because there was no one in the media that showed us that. Maybe some celebrities who were being sent off to rehab again on the cover of like the Inquirer, or you'd see sometimes in movies, you'd see women portrayed as alcoholics and they looked very, very poorly. They had frizzy hair and big bulbous noses and messy clothes. Their children, if they had any children around, were unkempt. So when I started to question this alcohol habit, which of course because alcohol goes like this, it was one glass, then two, then three, never in an effort to get drunk, in an effort to catch my breath. And of course, with tolerance, it takes more. I didn't know that this is what it could look like. There were no warnings like, hey, these are red flags, by the way. It wasn't until I started to suffer some consequences, meaning I felt foggy in the morning. I wasn't as patient with my kids. Now, as I said, I had 3 kids within 4 years, so it was a lot. But I loved being a mom. I loved it. And suddenly I was finding that some of the color was drained out of my life. I was more prone to bouts of the blues, not a full on depression or anything, just blue. And it just became a habit. After a while, I said, okay, you know what? This is too much of a habit. But it wasn't about I have an alcohol problem. It was about, I'm a healthy person, I'm a runner, I'm into fitness, I watch what I eat, and this doesn't jive with the lifestyle I live. And so I stopped, took a break. And now I know it's simply because I was able to do that because I wasn't far enough along the road to alcohol dependence. So yes, I had that window of opportunity where I was able to take a break. Then a couple of years later, another crisis hit. And I realize now it brought up a lot of the same bad feelings I had around the death of my mom. And when those bad feelings came back, so did the wine. Except this time it came back with a little more of a vengeance. And that went on for a few more years. There was nothing glaringly obvious. There was this quiet voice inside of me saying, this something is not right. This alcohol has taken up a lot of space in your head, and you're recovering from it more and more often in the mornings. And yet it still wasn't making sense. But no. I'm not an alcoholic. Like, come on. Look at my life. I work. I have beautiful children. We go to the park. I cook dinner for them. I mean, no. And so I put this issue, which my instincts knew was an issue, back on the shelf. Well, by the time I finally put this thing in the rearview mirror, I was well into my 40s. I had suffered pretty immensely. I had lost my sense of identity. I had lost a good amount of self-respect, not because I was out doing ridiculous things. Again, by this point, I was a mother of 4. I was home drinking during dinner prep. I was drinking too much on the weekends. I was drinking while I watched a football game. I was drinking at birthday parties because by now the mommy culture was in full swing. And I looked around and it seemed that a lot of the moms were drinking like me. So it was just another reason to keep going until it got so bad that what I wanted to be and what I was, those were 2 very different stories. I had lost my love of life. I would stop drinking for a few days and the thoughts of the alcohol would be so prevalent in my mind that I would become irritable and restless. And I tried the habits to replace it. I got really into hot yoga. I got really into exercise again. I got into juicing and cooking and all the things I could think of, praying, meditating, making bargains, trade-offs. I'll only drink on Fridays. I'll only drink on Saturday. Okay, I'll only drink wine. I'll only drink spritzers. Oh my gosh. So when I finally put this thing behind me, I started looking into how did I get here? And then, like most people who take up a cause, I got angry. I felt duped. I realized that part of the reason I had slipped into this is because no one was teaching me what alcohol is as a substance, that it's a highly addictive drug. Instead, I was being told that I needed alcohol, that being a mom and a wife and a worker was hard and there's no way I could do it without alcohol. Nope. Mm-mm. This is what you women need. And I bought into it. I bought into it so much, I even had the t-shirt. I've talked before about that t-shirt saying champagne is the answer. I have a picture of it. I share it with the members. We have a good laugh, but it's sad. I really believed alcohol was my friend, except it wasn't. It beat the crap out of me. And that's why I do what I do today. That's why I came out with a podcast of my own. That's why I joined James Swanwick. I said, you need a female face. Women need to know that this is what alcohol misuse looks like. I've been in books, magazines. I shout it like that little who in the storybook because there's a few things I realize now. This was never a personal vendetta by alcohol against me. This was never about elevating me as a woman and helping me be the best version of myself. This was a marketing campaign targeted toward women just like me, all over the country, all over the world. And I fell for it. And maybe you have too. And just like the cigarette campaigns were shut down years ago, I hope that my little part here is going to change the tide so that we can see alcohol for what it is, so that we can see that alcohol in women is linked directly to several types of breast cancer. Did you know that women, because just of how we are biologically, we have less body weight? Less body weight typically, yes. We have less body water. We have a higher percentage of body fat. Just anatomically, it's how we're made. All of those things leave us more predisposed to complications from alcohol use. And here's the kicker. You think, oh, yeah, what, like those alcoholic ladies, the ones drinking the cheap wine out of the jug? No. You know what constitutes heavy drinking in women? Excessive drinking, as the CDC calls it. In the US, that is greater than 1 drink per day for a woman. 1 drink. Again, like I've said before, what's a drink? It's a 12-ounce can of beer. It's a 5-ounce glass of wine or a 1.5-ounce shot of liquor per day. If you're listening to this, I know you're not having 1 drink a day. Binge drinking in women is 4 drinks or more over the course of 2 hours. So if you go into a restaurant and you get one of their big pours, the 9-ounce, you guys know what I mean. If you have 2 of those over the course of 2 hours, you're binge drinking. Those stats are directly tied to an increased risk for hangovers, blackouts, liver disease, alcohol-induced cardiovascular diseases, and several cancers. Since this whole mommy wine culture has come into vogue, they make it look so cute. In the ads, they make the t-shirts, the napkins, the cocktail napkins. I had those too. Since they made those, that started in the mid-2000s. The rates of ER visits between the years 2006 and 2014 increased 70% amongst women. I'm no marketing expert, but I'm guessing if you pulled up the dollars put toward alcohol marketing campaigns toward women, targeting women, if you put it up year by year and looked at it in a parallel chart tracking ER visits in women, I bet you the lines would be pretty similar. Those rates of increase, dollars to hospital visits. What an interesting experiment that would be. Cirrhosis in women between the years 2009, 2015, up 50%. So let me remind you, this data was collected pre-COVID. If you're a woman out there and you're listening, think back to your drinking before quarantine. Has it gotten worse? So imagine that data that's going to come out in a couple of years when it takes into account 2020 and 2021. So, what are the barriers to women addressing this problem? I spoke to you briefly about mine, but as I went down and collected data for this podcast episode, I check all of these boxes too. So I'll read you a couple. I went over the biological predisposition to alcohol-induced health issues. How about culturally? Well, it goes back to what I was saying. What's your image of a woman who has an alcohol use disorder? Does she look like me? Look at the cover art. There's a picture of James, of course, Sarah, and me. Do Sarah and I look like alcohol use disorder people? Probably not. And we really didn't back then either when we were drinking. Yes, we had the puffier face and some bloodshot eyes, and, we definitely were not looking our best. But was it glaringly obvious? Absolutely not. So take a look at us. So culturally, there's a stereotype. There's also an additional stigma because, again, people get hung up on labels. Alcoholic mother. Well, doesn't that have a nice ring to it? Mm-hmm. And the shame. As women, we get the messaging from the time we are young that we are supposed to remain small and quiet and timid. And those of us who choose not to, well, we have enough labels going on, don't we? And so alcohol makes us feel all of those things. It makes us small and self-conscious and hurts our self-esteem, which are already under assault as a female. And I'm saying this as a well-educated, financially privileged white woman. I can't even speak to what it's like for women who are marginalized. It's worse. So there's that stigma. Alcoholic mother. Yeah, let me race off to get help for that because that's not embarrassing or shameful. And what does shame make us want to do? Well, it makes you want to drink more. And how about trauma? Women are more likely to suffer sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, all of which can lead us to self-medicate with alcohol because we may not have access to care, to therapy. We may not have ever been taught healthy coping skills. And again, back to the messaging, we get the message that we can't handle it. We're not enough to manage this, but alcohol will help us. And so we innocently fall into this trap, this slippery slope. And before we know it, our brains have learned that that's how we cope. That's what we do when we feel pain, emotional, physical. That's what we do. And how do you get out of that when the exit door has a big, shiny, flashing light that says alcoholic mother over it? Who wants to walk through that door when we've already been through something pretty bad or absolutely terrible? Women are also more prone to co-occurring disorders like depression, anxiety, eating disorder. How about postpartum? So if you are a woman who's delivered a baby and you are experiencing something very common like postpartum, which comes with its own stigma, heaven forbid, it could just be a natural thing that happens. Nope. There's some messaging you get. Well, I guess you don't love being a mom. Yeah. But hey, wear that t-shirt that says mommy needs wine. Maybe that'll help. Why don't you drink a depressive substance while you're experiencing anxiety and depression? Yeah. Sounds like a perfect solution, don't you think? But that's the messaging that women get. So, the co-occurring disorders, all of which the last thing they need poured on top of them is alcohol. And yet it's the messaging that we get. And even if they say, well, don't drink too much, they should be saying, don't drink at all. there is no safe amount of alcohol to ingest because who is drinking less than one drink a day? I mean, maybe some people, but nobody listening to this podcast. And then there's gender inequality because women are more likely to experience economic barriers to getting help for this issue. Women are more likely to have lower wages. There are pay gaps. Childcare, getting childcare before they can even get a job. And then how about childcare when they are seeking help for this issue, which again, how many barriers have they already walked through to even make the call? Labels, stigma, shame, another heaping load of shame. It upsets me. And I am just speaking from a place of experience as a woman, as a mother. I certainly, in my work with our members, encounter the barriers to help which men encounter. There's plenty of them. I'm speaking as a woman, and I'm speaking again to women who are listening to this and anyone who cares about a woman who may be experiencing this. So what do you do? Well, you don't have to do anything as dramatic as what I'm doing. Put your face out there with your story, which is not a real cute story at times, I can tell you that. But I went through cancer and I went through alcohol misuse. So I count myself as a really lucky woman because I'm here. I'm here with a voice. I'm still alive. And I always say, well, as long as I'm still here, I may as well make myself useful. So I am trying to be useful because I speak from a place of compassion and caring. And I know that if you have been drinking more than you know is okay, which now you've learned what small amounts are actually okay, I know it's tough. And so what you do is you have the same, maybe just a touch of the same compassion you could be feeling for a friend going through this, or maybe that you feel for me when you hear my stories or Sarah's story and think, wow, that sounds tough. Can you turn just a little bit of that compassion toward yourself? Because when you do that, you find your power. You start to very slowly reclaim your power because one of the most loving, powerful things we can do is care about ourselves. Care about yourself the way that you so easily care for those around you. Because I use the term mother in a very broad sense. Whether you are a woman who has given birth to a child or not, you are a mother, whether it is to your community, to a pet, to extended family, to coworkers, to whomever. As women, we are nurturers, we are caregivers. And if I have one suggestion for the women listening, it's look at yourself in the mirror and say, it's going to be okay. And you deserve peace. You deserve happiness again. You deserve to love yourself. You're enough. And here at Project 90, we don't use that stigmatized language. Alcoholic, sober, recovery. And again, there's nothing wrong with it if it works for you. I've done plenty of AA. I have tons of friends in AA. I have tons of friends in recovery of all sorts. So whatever song sings to you, go sing that song. But if that doesn't sing to you, maybe ours will. Maybe Project 90's language will break through some of the barriers which are holding you back. Maybe it'll resonate and you'll say, yeah, I could see that. And it'll give you just that little bit of hope that you need to take the next step and the next step and the next step. We have a lot of women in our community now because when we talk about high performers, again, just like I use the word mother, high performers come in all walks of life, whether you work in the home, you work outside the home, both, whatever it is, you're high powered because you're a female. And girls, we all know that's true. So we've got a lot of women in there. And It's great to be with like-minded ladies. We have such a good time. We get really honest and vulnerable the way that women can, in that safe way that sisterhood you feel when you find your people. So I say all of this with love. And again, if you are someone who cares about a woman who's suffering like this, I hope you'll share this with her. I hope that you'll encourage her. Let her know it's going to be okay. It gets better. Sarah and I are proof of that. And there's a lot more like us. And we're growing in numbers. The alcohol-free beverage industry is growing exponentially. Check it out. Tons of beverages out there now for us that are fancy and make us feel pretty and successful and all those things that the alcohol ads promise, but don't deliver. Yep. You can actually have a healthy drink that makes you feel awesome. There's a bunch of them out there. In fact, Coach Sarah is a pro on that. All the alcohol-free beverages, she does taste tests and all kinds of stuff on Instagram, Sarah Connolly. So anyway, take a listen to this podcast, share it with a friend, share it with a girlfriend, share it with a sister, a mother, and check us out. Check out Project 90. Get that alcohol freedom formula. Book a call with me. Let's have a chat. Let's get you on board. Come on, ladies, let's do this. Let's band together. We've done it before. We have changed history, and maybe we're doing it now in our own way. But this is an inside job first. You can't help others until you help yourself. So please go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Book that call. Let's see what happens. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the honor of sharing my message with you. Until next time, thank you, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I want to load you up with some free stuff. If you look in the show description, there's a link there to get my guide, which is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide. And in that guide, I will walk you through the process and system for successfully reducing or quitting alcohol. It's the same system and process that I give to my clients inside of Project 90. And if you would like to get your hands on that guide, you can click the link in the description part of this episode, or you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Likewise, if you would like to be considered for Project 90 to join our community and get some accountability, some coaching, and have fun, achieve some goals over at least 90 days with our help and support, then you're invited to schedule a complimentary coaching call with one of my coaches. You can do that by clicking the link in the show description or going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Now, Project 90 is for over 30s only. And it's really for people who are ready to get long-term power over alcohol. You don't have to quit forever, but you will have to quit for at least 90 days with our support. Just a reminder, 95% of my content is free and plastered all over the internet. If you just Google James Swanwick and the word alcohol, you'll find that. For those of you who want additional support, if you want coaching, fun, accountability, if you realize that you can't do this on your own or you just plain don't want to, then I invite you to schedule that call and we can talk about if Project 90 is for you. If you would like to take some of my supplements, swanvitality.com is the website. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. I have a liver support product called Loving Liver, which I designed and specially formulated to help remove toxins from your liver after years of alcohol consumption. Again, there's a link in the show description. We've also got a green powder there, which turns into a green juice filled with amazing ingredients to support you and give you energy throughout the day. And there's also a magnesium product, which I take every night to help me prepare for sleep and to sleep through the night. So there's a few options there. Lastly, if this episode or the show in general has helped you or supported you in any way, I would so appreciate it if you would write a review. It really does help the show climb the rankings and expose the show to people who don't yet know about us. So if this show has benefited you in any way and you feel compelled to pay it forward, just writing a short little review, hopefully a nice one, will be so appreciated, and I will thank you immensely. Lastly, if you'd like to talk to me about anything at all, feel free to send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I do read and respond to every email. And you can also follow me on Instagram at James Swanwick. Send me a message there. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Catch you on the next one.